What are the 8 most frequently asked questions about living in Michigan? Let's get to it. It's no secret that since 2020, the state of Michigan is becoming an extremely popular place to call home. From people who are worried about the inflated cost of living to people just wanting to experience the natural beauty that the Mitten State provides. But stop, before you load up that U-Haul and head on over here, for those reasons alone, I want to share some of the most frequently asked questions from people that I have helped relocate and the most common questions that I found on Ask.com. And before we jump into it, if you are new here and you're new to me, my name is Luane. I'm a Michigan realtor, and I am helping people like you buy, sell, and invest in the beautiful state of Michigan. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out because I want to be your go-to resource for all things Michigan. So let's kick this off with question number 1, which is probably the most frequently asked question, and that is, are the winters actually all that bad in Michigan? And the answer is, well, it depends. There's a wild misconception that Michigan is just Antarctica with a different name. And that just could not be further from the truth. It's true that in the Upper Peninsula, some areas can get anywhere from 80 to 150 inches of snow a year. And I was reading somewhere that they actually set a record back in 78 and 79 with a total of 355 inches of snow, which is absolutely insane. So I guess when it comes to being that far north, maybe Antarctica is a good description. Now you can either be in the northern part of Michigan, where you get 150 inches plus of snow, or you can be in the southeast region of Michigan, where we average about 20 to 40 inches of snow. Location really matters, as I'm sure you can see, and this has a lot to do with lake effect snow. You see, here in Michigan, we are surrounded by the Great Lakes, and the wind can do some pretty crazy things. The wind typically flows out of the west, so most lake effect snow falls to the east of the Great Lakes. I've provided for you here a simple image up from the Michigan History Museum, and this lays out how lake effect snow works. That dry air comes across the warm lake, Lake Michigan in this case. It picks up moisture and heat, and then it reaches land and it goes higher and it even gets colder. The moisture freezes and then you get the white stuff. And it really depends on where you're wanting to live. So if you're wanting to have a not so harsh winter, I would definitely recommend the southeast region of Michigan, as the west side of the state, because it's east of Lake Michigan, does tend to get more snow. We do get a lot of snow, but some years not so much. And it's not nearly as bad as what people believe. I'm not driving around with chains on my tires, spikes on my shoes, and an all-wheel drive heavy-duty truck filled to the rim with sandbags. In fact, I never even owned a all-wheel drive vehicle until just a couple of years ago. Prior to that, I was getting around in a front-wheel drive. So the secret to avoiding accidents with all that snow is to take it slow and be patient. You know, I see so many times as I've commuted to Detroit over the past 10 years, people who just go flying by on the expressway at the same speed that they go in the summer. Even if you have a 4-wheel drive truck, that doesn't protect you against ice. I actually was driving down 75 a couple years back, and I saw this truck coming up on my left, and I was kind of, the lane was snowy, and I was kind of waiting for all that snow to hit my windshield and blind me as I expected it would, and that never happened. And then the next thing I know, I'm looking in my rearview mirror at this 4-wheel drive truck spinning out, going across the median and all 3 lanes of oncoming traffic until it landed on the other side of the expressway. And I'm sure that person had to take a minute to catch their breath, because that's pretty scary when it happens. However, it only happens when you're going too fast. And those are usually the first people that we see in the ditch, or as we like to call it, the annual meeting of new drivers in Michigan. A piece of advice from somebody who's lived in Michigan their entire life is to invest in a great coat, gloves, boots, and a hat. They're going to last you nearly forever, and you're going to be warm enough to go for walks, go cross-country skiing, hiking, downhill skiing, or even snowmobiling. Because time flies when you're having fun, and winter is going to come regardless, so you might as well lean into it and enjoy the beauty of the season. The next question is, what is Michigan known for? Well, I figured why not brag a little bit about what we have to offer so that you have some kind of awareness of what we have here in Michigan. Besides meeting me, of course. I have some great things to share with you to help build that awareness. First off, and one of my favorites is Michigan apples. You know, there are 16 or so different varieties of apples that are grown in this state. To me and my son, Honeycrisp is by far the best for eating. And if you like to bake pies or apple crisp, you're going to want to go for the Granny Smith or the Spy because they have a little bit of tartness to them and they hold up well in baking. Now that's just my opinion, but can you really argue with me on that one? The apples alone have an annual economic impact of between 700 and 900 million a year. And of course they come in season in the fall, which is one of the most beautiful seasons in Michigan. And it's a great time to have adventures. Another item that we have here in Michigan are cherries. The state grows 70% of the United States, 5 different types of cherries. And Traverse City is known as the cherry capital of the world. So be sure to make sure that you visit it up there if you like cherries, because it can be a little bit overwhelming. And just mention that these cherries also make really good pies and cherry crisp. Just if you're noticing a theme here. Next, we have over 400 breweries. And with Grand Rapids now being named Beer City, USA, if you're all about the beer, you're going to want to get over there. We are also famous for our wineries. I bet you didn't know that. We have over 140 wineries to pick from. There are wine tours on almost every coast, everywhere in northern Michigan, and nearly every season. And you'll be sure to find your favorite Michigan wine. Also, we're known for Detroit Coney Islands. And these are not to be confused with Flint Coney Islands, because there is a difference. And it's a staple of our cuisine. It's a beef hot dog with chili topping, a beef chili topping, chopped onions, and a little bit of mustard. I like mine whole, the onions. They're extremely messy, and a shower is most definitely necessary after eating one, but it's well worth it. And did you know that we also have the very best wieners? Seriously, Kogo Meats is located right here in mid-Michigan, and they have amazing hot dogs and sausages and bologna. And I can't tell you how many of my family members who have moved away from Michigan and have visited from Florida or wherever else in the United States have come back, and they take boxes of Kogo back with them so that they can have the best wieners wherever they're living. Personally, I like the Kogo Viennas the best. Now, when it comes to famous people, a lot of people argue about who is the most famous. And many people would say in Michigan that that's probably the rapper Eminem. At least he's recently the most famous. And a lot of that is just because of all of the publicity that he's received over the year. Michigan is also known for having more lighthouses than any other state. We have over 115 lighthouses, and some people have actually made a career out of painting, photographing, drawing, and studying about these lighthouses. Michigan was also home to the first outdoor shopping center, and it was the capital at one time of the world's cereal industry, with Kellogg's and Post being located in Battle Creek. And we haven't even started on the natural beauty, like the Sleeping Bear Dunes, Mackinac Island, Mackinac Bridge, which isn't actually natural, but it's pretty amazing, the Great Lakes, Picture Rock, and of course, we also are famous for Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, and Aretha Franklin, because we are Motown. We are also the birthplace of the American automotive industry, for the Mo of Motown. and of course, Verner's. Michigan also has 5 national and 103 state parks. And I'll tell you, most of us in Michigan have grown up visiting and camping in these parks all of our life, and this is something that I've passed on to my children. And I'll tell you what, if you've never experienced a Michigan summer, you are in for a treat. I lived in Florida while I was in college, and it was pretty nice until May. And then the temperature went up, the humidity went up, and it was so hot outside that you literally stayed in, like a lot of people do in the winter in Michigan, because it was just too hot to do anything. If you're going to exercise, you have to do it very early in the morning or late at night. I've had family that have lived all over the United States, and they all claim that Michigan summers are the best. And how can they not be? With temperatures averaging between 75 and 85 and relatively low humidity, most of the time you can actually enjoy summer here. And there is just so much more, but I think you're getting the point. And for those of you who are watching, if you know of any other amazing things in this fine state, please be sure and drop them in the comments below, because I will guarantee you that I have probably missed at least half of them. The next frequently asked question, is Detroit, Michigan as scary as people say? And that is a very frequently searched question from people that I have relocated here to Michigan. Many people have fallen victim to the misconception that Detroit has basically eaten up the entire state of Michigan. People have watched Eminem's movie 8 Mile, and they just think that the whole city is categorically as overlooked and over-neglected as it was in the movie. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Of course, I'm not oblivious. I know that there are areas in Detroit, just like any other major metropolitan area across the country, that have been neglected. They have more than other areas, and there are increases in homelessness, foreclosures, and neglect overall. But that does not and should not define your opinion of Detroit. I frequently go to Detroit for work, for sporting events, entertainment, to go to restaurants, and though it has its rough spots, the good far outweighs the bad. In the downtown area, you have tons of restaurants and entertainment and theaters, and people are surprised that they can go there and live to talk about it. Well, the city of Detroit has done such a wonderful job of creating a comeback. It's still a work in progress, but is extremely impressive. And I encourage anyone to go to Detroit for a day and experience what it has to offer firsthand before believing in all of the negativity that you see on the media. Now, moving right along, another question that I'm frequently asked is, are the roads and the construction in Michigan that bad? Well, the answer to that is that compared to a lot of the places that others have moved here from, yes, these roads get destroyed. We have a lot of weather fluctuation, and then we add on top of that in the winter, we throw salt on the roads to break down the ice, and you just got yourself a pothole city. Well, somewhere there's an index online that states that Michigan is among the top 10 states with the worst roads. But the good roads definitely outweigh the bad. I've spent a lifetime driving all over the state of Michigan, and I don't have any problems with the roads. So to say that Michigan roads are just a piece of Swiss cheese for your car to fall through is a little bit of an over-exaggeration. But I have learned that in comparison to people in other states who don't have the fluctuations in weather and temperatures, that their roads are much better. But again, it gets so over-exaggerated. I actually get people asking me how many flat times I get a flat tire, how many times have I had to rebuild the suspension of my car, and it's not like that at all. As far as construction, there is a lot of that because our roads just don't last. They don't last that long. And I have to tell you that every time I see a new construction site go up, I think to myself, didn't we just do this road? Even with all the construction, we still seem to be getting around just fine. And as far as flat tires go, I can tell you the quickest way to get a flat tire that I know of in Michigan is to drive into a new built community of homes that are being built. Anywhere that there's construction that they're building, you can be sure that you're probably going to pick up a nail or a screw and you're going to have to get your tire patched. And that has always been my truth. The next question is a very popular one. And that is, what is the lifestyle like in Michigan? And I just recently created some awareness about this in a video that I just recently dropped. It touches on this very topic, talking about finding your Michigan lifestyle. So I'm going to have that one up next here to play, but I'll also link it in the description so that you can add it to your queue if you don't have time to watch today. I've had a lot of people ask me this question, and from my experience living in Michigan for my entire life and also living in different places in Michigan, I've come to realize that a lot of people here in Michigan are not as career focused as in many cities across the USA and states like New York, California. We're not that kind of nose to the grindstone type of city where all we worry about is our work. Based on my experience, I've come to see that a lot of people here aren't so much defined by the job they have. It just allows for people to be able to fund their passions and their vacations, and that really makes sense. For myself, on the other hand, I truly love my job, and I'm very passionate about making these videos, which is kind of a hobby of mine. And so I have the best of both worlds because I get to intertwine my work with my passion, and that, I truly believe, is what has allowed me to help so many people like yourself move all across the country to this beautiful state. So the biggest complaint that I've probably heard about Michigan is that it is just a little bit slower paced. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. I mean, if you want a faster pace, you can live in the city. You can definitely speed that up. But if you want to have a little bit slower pace, you can live in the suburbs and you can commute into the city. Or you can live out on 10 acres. I mean, there's always going to be some compromises to be made when it comes to deciding what your Michigan lifestyle is. So be sure that you check out that video that I mentioned. It will definitely help you with that. I would definitely take the slower pace in order to have this lifestyle that I'm living right now here in Michigan. And another question that people have asked me is, which city should I live in? And again, I'm going to take you back to that video because I could just sit here and say Northville, Brighton, Milford are all amazing cities and they have this great downtown area and a lot of traffic. But if you're not into that, it's just not going to suit you. So the best thing to do is check out that video and determine what your Michigan lifestyle is. And if you were raised on 10 acres out in the middle of nowhere, then you're definitely going to want to check that out because you're going to want to have the freedom to do whatever you want to do. And moving on over to the next question, are there actually job opportunities in Michigan? And of course, the answer to this question is very situational, since it depends on what industry you're diving into. If you're getting into the automotive industry, manufacturing, general health care, technology, or even finance, you can definitely do pretty well, since those are the top 5 industries within Michigan. And again, it goes to the lifestyle in Michigan. As I mentioned, it's a little slower pace, so certain jobs wouldn't make sense elsewhere. For example, if you're looking to become a social media influencer, most of them find success in states like California, since there are such a huge population of creators who work together to build each other up and they piggyback off each other's influencing population. So there's a lot more growth there than there would be for people who are social media influencers in Michigan. But that's not to say that some really big social media influencers haven't come from this state. If I have one piece of advice for someone who is thinking about relocating in Michigan and you have this question, be sure to find something or have an idea of what industry you're looking for before you bring everything over here. I know that there are people out there who are just dying to get to Michigan and they figure that they will just figure it all out when they get here. So they come on out and And some of them have done very well with doing that. Just as people can move out here and do really well, I've had a few situations where people have moved here and then had to move back for other opportunities. And last but not least, where is the cheapest place to live in Michigan? And again, this is a tough question. This is keeping in mind that we are only talking about price, nothing else. Because when we talk about cheap living in Michigan, there's quite the variety out there. And we're talking about cities that many people are not familiar with. And many of these are located quite a ways from expressways and everything else. And people around here seem to like to be close to those expressways, especially in the southeast region of Michigan. It really just comes down to personal preference. A lot of people, like myself, don't want to live miles and miles away from entertainment and attractions, or any place where we have to worry about cell phone reception, whether we can have Wi-Fi or someone's actually going to come out and pick up our garbage. I'd just rather have a piece of land up north that I can go and camp on in the summer when I feel like it, and live the rest of my year down here in mid-Michigan. So when it comes to the places in Michigan that have the lowest cost of living, the new Home Source actually came out with their top 10 list of the most affordable cities in Michigan. And I'm just going to roll on through those right now. And I'll let you know which ones are close. Number 1 is Jackson, Michigan. Number 2 is Mount Morris, which is about 10 miles north of here. Number 3 is Battle Creek. And number 4 is Burton, which is probably 10 minutes from here. Number 5 is Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo. What a girl. Number 6 is Saginaw, which is about 45 minutes north of here. Number 7 is Flint, about 10 minutes from here. Number 8 is Muskegon, and that is on the west side of the state on Lake Michigan. Number 9 is Bedford, and coming in at number 10 is Detroit. And for those of you that have made it this far, what other questions do you have about living in Michigan? I would love for you to drop them in the comments below. And remember, if you have lots more questions after this video, you can jump onto my Calendly link and set aside your own 15-minute segment so that we can talk about what you want to know about Michigan, and I can answer all of the questions for you. So as always, thank you for watching. And if you've gotten some value, please give us a big old thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so that you'll be notified every time we upload a new video. So I'll see you next time.